this is well written, but is this serving the purpose? Is the target audience going to understand the message that we're trying to convey? How can we make it simpler for them?
I think from the opposite side, sometimes there's something called the curse of knowledge, which is, and as a PhD, you may be aware of this, right? It's when you're too close to something, you start talking about it in such a way that to you it makes sense, but to someone who's not familiar with the subject, it may not make sense. And ultimately, the reader of the book is their ideal client. So I'm guessing they're probably educated, but they're not experts in finance. Tell us a little bit about your thought process when it comes to making these decisions about how to best represent the goal of the book and really just trying to capture and condense it down to what really belongs in the book.
This is one of the hardest parts for me because, it's the curse of knowledge, as you said.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get so excited about the stories and the experiences that the clients share that we do want to capture everything. But unfortunately, we need to choose. And to help me with that, I always like to put myself in the target audience's shoes. So I like to think with their minds. For example, if I was about to get retired, just 2 or 3 years from retirement, and I was looking for help, would this be useful for me? Would I understand this? Would I be happy with that content in terms that can I leave and be aware of the decisions that I'm going to make after reading this book? Did this book make it easier for me to decide or not? So I also put myself in the role of the reader because as I'm writing, I am also reading what I've written to the authors. And then I start asking myself, okay, this is well written, but is this serving the purpose? Is the target audience going to understand the message that we're trying to convey? How can we make it simpler for them? So these are things that we can work with the clients to make the book get closer to their objective and relate with their target audience as much as possible.
So we talked about the curse of knowledge. Another thing that I believe in, a principle, if you will, is that you always want to enter the conversation going on in the minds of the reader, right?
Yes.
And there's a tendency that we all have to be, about me, my services, how I help. And that's just the natural tendency. But the reality for everything really, it's, people don't care about the information until you connect it with them and their situation, and they can see themselves reflected in that situation. And once they say, oh, this is what I'm thinking, these are my concerns, this is what I would like. And once they can identify with that, then they become interested in the more technical nature of the information, right? Tell me a little bit more about that from your perspective. How do you make sure that you're taking the information and really connecting it to the reader so that they become drawn into the information and story and take the time to read the book?
Yes, this is where stories make a huge difference and play a very important role because we are not sharing stories because the author wants to brag about their experience or because we want to sell something desperately to the readers. We're sharing stories because they are a powerful educational tool. So as you said, when the clients share their experiences with their target audience or the clients they've worked with, they are helping the readers to see how those situations play out in real life, and they can identify themselves better. So if they're reading the book and they see a similar situation that they're going through, or maybe a relative or a friend, they immediately see that and they say, this could be me, or this is my friend. My friend has just gone through something similar to that. And this immediately makes them interested in learning more because they see that we are going to talk about things that happen and that they can avoid if they understand what we're about to teach them. So this is our strongest strategy to hook the reader's attention and to help them understand the technical concepts that we're sharing.